Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our virtual event series on how to ace your applications here at CMS. My name is Nita, and I'm an emerging talent advisor here, and I'm really excited to be spending the next hour with you this afternoon. So we've got a jam-packed session today. I'm not going to go into too much more detail yet. I just wanted to start by kicking you off with a quick poll. So for those of you that know the drill and have attended one of these before, you know how it works. We're going to ask you a quick question. How confident do you feel about the application process if you were to go and submit your application right here, right now? Do you feel extremely confident? That's a 1, or not confident at all and you need a little bit more guidance? Think I know the answer, as you're all here today for a reason. So I've got the results of the poll. So I can see 2% of you are extremely confident, which is great. And hopefully this session will only make you more and more confident. But then we can see quite a few of you, 29% are quite confident, 24 not confident at all. So I'm really hoping at the end of the session, a spoiler alert, we're going to be asking you the same again. And we're really going to hopefully see those numbers change and you all go away from this session feeling really, really confident to go and apply to us. So to kick off then, I just want to give you a bit of an overview of our opportunities, what you can apply for right now and what you are eligible for. We're not going to spend too much time on this because a lot of this information is on our website, but it's just good to kind of set the scene and have a bit of an overview. So in terms of our opportunities, if you're an undergraduate, a graduate or beyond, a kind of career changer, we've got 3 key programs that may be of interest to you. So firstly, our training contract offering, we are live now for applications for that. We opened on the 2nd of October and we closed for applications on the 4th of December for the training contract. Now, don't worry. I know we're obviously in November and you may be thinking, oh gosh, I've not got my application in yet. Do not worry, as we're not recruiting on a rolling basis. So every single application will be considered if you applied on the 2nd of October or if you're applying the day before the deadline closes. So that'll give you a really good amount of time to apply when you feel ready and able to do so, and perfectly timed to watch this session, digest all the information and submit your application. So our training contract is for final year non-law students and penultimate year law students, and obviously those career changes. So do have a look and check if you're eligible for that and if you are ready to apply. We also have our Insight programme, which for Scotland is for second year law students and in England is for penultimate year non-law students and beyond. And this is almost like a mini vacation scheme for those individuals, which will run in Easter. And successful participants will be fast-tracked to an assessment day for our training contract. So that's a really good opportunity, and applications for that will open on the 4th of December and close early February. So you've got a bit of time to think if that's the right route for you. So get your thinking hat on if that's the right opportunity. And then we have our exciting new opportunity, hot off the press, if you like, an exclusive, the Graduate Solicitor Apprenticeship route. So this is the first year we're running this. It's very exciting. So it's in England only for the time being, and it's targeted at non-law graduates. So if you're completing or due to finish your non-law degree and you are interested in doing the postgraduate studies and the SQE as an apprenticeship, to come and join us at CMS for 33 months and study alongside working with us for the postgraduate piece, then this might be the route for you. So this opportunity will open on Monday and it will be open for a month. So do get online, have a look, do a bit of research, and if you're a non-law graduate and you think this might be the route for you, then definitely check it out. So we also have some opportunities for kind of sixth form students, school leavers, and those career changers that don't have a degree. So if you fit into that category on this call this afternoon, we have our solicitor apprenticeship route, the non-graduate solicitor apprenticeship route, which is for all of our school leavers in England only, and we open on Monday for those applications. And then we have our CMS Connect work experience and law scholarship programs as well, which will open next year. If you're wondering about eligibility, not sure which one suits you, not sure which ones suit you and you are eligible for, please do go onto our website and look a little bit further on that. But as I said, you've got plenty of time, so do take your time to apply when is right for you. So that's enough of that. That's all, lots of facts. Now let's get into why you're all here, our application process and how you can excel. So our application process for this year is as follows. There's a 4-stage application process. The first stage is our online application, where we ask you to provide some information about academic achievements, any work experience, and we really take a holistic approach to this first stage. And I won't go into any more detail because I will let Kat speak about that a little bit later. Then once you pass this stage of the process, you'll be invited to complete the Watson-Glaser stage of the process, the critical reasoning test. After this, it's the video interview stage, and then you'll be invited to an assessment day. So it's a 4-stage process, but this year you get directly to the kind of training contract route, and you will join the CMS Academy as a kind of development focus week. So it's one less hoop for you to jump through to get a training contract. So hopefully it'll be worth the wait and the 4-stage process. So we're just going to spend some time now going in a little bit more depth into each stage of this process and telling you what to expect so you can really prepare in the best way, and give you some hints and tips on how we want you to prepare and what we're really looking for. So to kick us off, I'm going to start with the online application and hand over to the wonderful Kat B. Now, as I said, Kat is our screener for CMS, and she reviews every single application that we receive. So you really, really want to listen to this next section. She's going to introduce herself very briefly and then talk you through what to expect at the online application stage. So over to you, Kat.
Hi everyone. So my name is Kat. Thank you, Anita. And as Anita mentions, I am the person that reviews every single application that comes into CMS. So I'm going to quickly take you through the online application stage. I won't go into loads of detail now because some of our other special guests are going to give some top tips, and I'll amalgamate some of my advice in a few slides' time. But just to go through the bones of the online application process, it's really important for you to be as accurate as possible at this stage, because this is your opportunity to make the best possible first impression on us. So what that means is that even though you're probably applying to a few different firms, probably putting in the same bits of information, it's really important you make an effort to include everything we're asking for, and really read the questions that are there. Make sure you're giving us what we're asking for. So we're going to ask you for personal details. Please take this seriously. Make sure the information is accurate. Make sure you're spelling things correctly. Every year we have applicants that spell their own names wrong, for example. That doesn't make a great impression. So just make sure that you're not that candidate. And it's also really important to put down the dates of your education, because as Anita has mentioned, we've got lots of different programs and we need to make sure that you are actually eligible for the one that you're applying for. So include your education details, include your grades, and again, please be accurate, but do be reassured that we have a really holistic way of assessing applications, particularly with regards to educational achievements. So don't worry that if your grades aren't exactly what you were hoping for, that will mean that you won't progress. That's not how it works at CMS. So put down everything completely accurately, but do feel free to mention any mitigating circumstances. And also, if you feel comfortable, please do tick the box to give your contextual information around your educational achievements. We also need to find out about any work experience that you've got. But again, be reassured that doesn't need to be legal work experience. We're looking for any positions of responsibility, any times that you have taken on a volunteering role, perhaps you've had a caring role, anything that you have done that you can tell us about that has involved a level of responsibility counts. So feel free to give us lots of detail. Make sure, again, it's accurate and you explain how long you had this role and what your responsibilities, what competencies you developed within that, and really pack that section of the form with anything that you think could be interesting for us to review. There's also a section that is sometimes overlooked to the extent that some people actually don't complete this section at all. Again, please don't be that candidate. And that's our free text questions. Now, these are really, really important. Like I said, we take a holistic approach to the online application, which means that we want to get to know you. And one of the best ways, far beyond, what A levels you've got or what kind of part-time work experience you've had, is what your motivation is for applying to CMS, what your interest is in commercial law, and how you can get across to us your commercial awareness and your interest in what's going on in the legal world today. So we have 3 questions and we have a specific word count for them. Make sure you make the most of those words and you really sell yourself in this section. Again, accuracy is paramount, so do check these answers and really use this opportunity to give us a bit of a flavour about what you can bring to our firm. So I think that's probably enough detail on this part of the process for now. So I'm going to hand back to Anita to talk about the Watson-Glaser critical reasoning test.
Fabulous, thanks, Kat. So if you pass the first stage of the process, the online application that Kat has mentioned, you will be invited to complete the Watson-Glaser critical reasoning test. So this is, it's a critical reasoning test, surprise, surprise. And so this is a key skill that successful solicitors require. So this is why the test is used. So it is tough, but what I would recommend is you just practice is the key piece of advice here. You'll be sent a link. You will get a chance to practice before you go in, and you will have a period of time of 5 days to complete the test. So definitely go onto our website, practice this test. Don't just dive in and have a go, because once you've done it, that's it. You don't get another go. So really, really think about it and make sure you're ready. Make sure your environment is ready. You're not going to have someone run into your room and disturb you. You're not expecting a delivery that's going to distract you, and really just focus on this test and get yourself in that mindset of the critical reasoning and what it requires for this test. So not too much more to say at this stage. There are a lot of resources online that can support you with these kinds of tests. Watson-Glaser themselves, and we have practice tests on our website also. So do use those resources before you dive in. If you pass the benchmark, if you meet the benchmark, if you like, for this stage of the process, you will then progress to the video interview stage, where I'll hand back to Kat now, who's going to talk you through that stage as she will screen each of these video interviews. So Kat, back to you.
So, as Anita mentions, the next stage is a video interview. And what we mean by that is not an interactive Zoom type interview, it's a static video interview. Now, what that means is that you will be given a question and you'll be given some time to prepare, and then you'll have to record your answer. We don't allow any re-records. So once that time starts ticking down, you just have to be confident, you have to go with your gut, and you have to answer as best you can. Now, what this means is it's quite a different situation than most of you might have been in before. So the great thing is that, like with the Watson-Glaser test, you can practice beforehand. We can tell you now you're going to have 60 seconds to prepare your answer and 60 seconds to present. So have a look on our website, look at the kind of competencies that CMS are looking for in their future trainee solicitors, and have a think about, what kind of questions do you think might come up, and test yourself. Perhaps write down a few different questions and then pull them out at random, and even video yourself. You don't have to show anyone, but just the fact that you are trying to structure an answer under this kind of pressure, and that there's going to be a recording at the end, can really help, I think, to make it less of an alien situation in that moment. The same kind of advice that we'll probably talk about in a minute with regards to final round interviews apply. Things like structuring your answers in a logical way, using the STAR technique you might have heard of. So situation, task, action, result. That's almost more important, I think, in a video interview, because it can keep you to time. It can make sure that you don't go off on a tangent, where in an interactive face-to-face interview, you can always pull that back. But if you've only got 60 seconds, that can be really hard. So it's a discipline, and it's a unique requirement really, but it is definitely something that you can practice, that you can get better at. And in terms of the content of your answers, again, remember that we are looking to get to know you, and we're looking to understand whether you are you understand the kind of values that CMS hold, and you feel that you can communicate your passion for this opportunity and why you think you'd be a great addition to our team. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of insight, and I think some of our guests later are going to give some of their top tips as well.
Hi everyone, I'm Shannon and I'm a First Seat trainee in corporate transactions in our Sheffield office. So I'm going to begin by telling you a little bit about my journey. So I studied law at university. During university, I attempted to apply to a lot of different vacation schemes, but I was unsuccessful in obtaining one. So as a graduate, I set out to get a training contract. I got a paralegal job to build on my work experience, and I put my full focus outside of this on applications. So I successfully completed the CMS Academy last year, and my training contract was supposed to begin in 2024, but it got moved forward a year. So I applied for the LPC, which is now the SQE for many of you, quit my paralegal job, and I got a part-time job. So I've recently completed the LPC in July, and I started my training contract in the same month. So it's all been a whirlwind, but it was all worth it, and I have loved my time at the firm so far. So why was I successful in this round of applications opposed to when I was in university? So my key tips for the application process, beginning with the application itself. My prior approach and the mistake of many was to apply for as many firms as I could to increase my chances, but this actually meant they were rushed and not tailored enough. So my first tip would be to do your research and to make sure that the application is tailored to CMS. CMS want to see why you want to work at this firm in particular. In my prior applications, I was also far too waffly. So my second tip would be to make snappy points and back everything up with an example that either links to yourself, your experience, your skill set, or to the firm, even if it's not directly asking a question about you or the firm. So you are limited in the amount that you can write. So you want to show how you'd be an asset to CMS and that you have a genuine interest in the firm. Legal experience can help, but it's certainly not a necessity. So as Kat said, you can draw on any work experience or otherwise for transferable skills. So for example, I used working in a team as an example of when I worked in a dessert parlour. So this can also extend to your hobbies. Remember that CMS wants to build a picture of you as a person. Another tip of mine would be to take any opportunity to sell yourself to the firm. So for example, if there is a box that says, is there anything else that you would like to tell us? You can use this as an opportunity to talk about anything that you haven't had chance to. So I didn't find an opportunity to speak about some volunteering I'd done, so I used this box to do so. My final tip on the application, the actual application, is to dedicate time. So as I said, my previous applications were rushed, and I believe my success was because of the time I dedicated to researching and perfecting my applications. So getting a training contract is competitive, and just dedicating that time will improve your chances of success massively. So if successful, as mentioned, you then do the Watson-Glaser test. So again, dedicate time for preparing for this. An associate at CMS called Idin actually has a video on YouTube which helped me massively with the Watson-Glaser test. There are also lots of resources out there that can help you approach each section of the test, as each section is answered in a different way. And as Kat mentioned, as Anita mentioned, do lots of practice tests. So moving on to the video interview, again, dedicate that time to your research and preparation and ask yourself, why this firm? Prepare in advance for any competency questions that may crop up to do with your skill set. So I'd recommend using the STAR structure that Kat mentioned for each skill. So that's situation, task, action, result. And just be yourself. CMS are a down-to-earth, friendly firm. They don't look for a specific type of person. They want diversity and to see what you could bring to the firm. So following this is the assessment centre, which my fellow trainee Christy will be offering some tips later. So my final general tip I have to offer is just to be resilient and don't give up. So the whole process is massively beneficial in getting that training contract. So use any knockbacks you may have had to your advantage. It's all a learning curve and it's all a part of your development. And that's all my tips. So good luck, everyone. Handing back to Anita.
Fabulous. Thank you so much for that, Shannon. There were some really, really great bits of advice in there. And you took the words right out of my mouth in terms of being yourself, being authentic to you. We really want to get to know who you are and own that. There isn't one size fits all when it comes to what makes a good trainee solicitor. So really be you and sell yourself during those first 3 stages. So we're just going to move on to the final stage of the process, which is the assessment day. So hopefully you will make it through those 3 stages and be invited to join us on an assessment day. So they will be next year. So if you apply for a training contract, they'll be as early as kind of the 2nd week of January next year. And they will be in person, which may be a good or a bad thing for you, depending on your view, but they will be in person for this cycle. And there will be kind of 3 key exercises that you'll be assessed on, alongside some networking and a chance to meet different people from the firm. So you will have an interview with somebody at partner level or of counsel. That'll be in person, about 45 minutes, mixture of motivational and kind of strength-based questions. No real surprises there in terms of the typical interview setup that you can expect. You'll also have some kind of case study exercise. So this will be an individual task and it will be focused on that research and understanding, bringing in commercial awareness and analysing information, which are all really key skills that you need to be a good solicitor. And then there'll be a 3rd exercise, which will be a presentation task, but formed around kind of group peer review. So you will be presenting, but kind of working together with that peer reflection piece. And what we're really looking for in this is that kind of active listening, how you work with one another in a group, not just your individual contribution. So I won't take Christy's thunder too much in terms of hints and tips for this, but I guess just really be prepared for the assessment day, be yourself, definitely do your research and make sure that your commercial awareness is up to scratch. And what we mean by that is really have that awareness of what's going on, but understand, CMS's role in that and CMS's clients' role in that, and really understand that. Do your research, be yourself, and think about how you can sell yourself in the best way, asking good questions and really making an impact. I'm going to leave all the really good advice to Christy now, and I'm going to hand over to her. She'll introduce herself. She's a trainee who's been through this process and got an offer, so definitely did more than something right, and she's going to share her key tips with you on how to rock the assessment day.
Hi everyone, thanks so much for joining us today. My name's Christy. I'm a first seat trainee in construction in our Manchester office at the moment. So my perspective is slightly different from Shannon's, just because when I got my training contract, I was an internal applicant for the firm. So I actually graduated from my undergrad in 2017. I was a legal advisor at a different firm for a little bit and then moved to CMS as an assistant paralegal. So as an assistant paralegal, I was in the legal services unit just to get a bit of legal experience while I figured out what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. And then I was promoted to be a paralegal in the same team. So while I was in that team, I got some experience across a lot of different areas. So I did an internal secondment with our IP team down in London, and then did quite well in that. So actually went on to do secondments internally for 3 of the firm's largest clients. While I was doing that, I was completing my LPC alongside work. So if any of you think that might be a route that you would like to take, it can be done. it is a little bit tiring, but definitely worth it. So I initially applied for the firm when I first started, but was unsuccessful for 2 cycles, and then managed to get it in the 3rd application cycle. I didn't actually make it to the assessment day on either of the 2 initial applications that I made. The first one, I just didn't pass the Watson Glaser test. So like Shannon said, just practice, and watch any YouTube videos and get any tips that you can. And then on the second one, going back to what Kat said earlier, it was due to grammar and me just not expressing myself very well. So that was something definitely that I needed to work on. So for my tips for assessment days, there are quite a few. And when you've gotten to this stage, it is about who you are really as a person, how you are interacting with other people, because you will have already impressed with your application. So the first thing that I would say is that when you get to the assessment day, everyone will be as nervous as you are, but nerves can be really helpful. So in terms of performance, it is good to be a little bit nervous about something that you are going into, because it shows that you care, and as well as that, it just gives you that little bit of adrenaline to perform really well. So something that I would say as well is that during this process, make sure that you are looking after yourself, and when you get the invite to the assessment day, make sure you've put a really good morning routine in place so that you feel like your best self. I feel like it sounds really basic to say, but having a good night's sleep the night before, making sure that you have breakfast, have a nice relaxing morning, maybe go for a walk, go to the gym, do something that makes you feel like a really good version of yourself, because that's how you want to present on the day. I'd also say as well that you are going to be expected to know a lot about the firm at the assessment day. So learn about the firm, but do so in a way that's really interesting to you. So when I found out about the assessment day, I think I was actually a bit tired of looking at news articles, to be honest. So it was more of a, how can I incorporate learning about the legal industry into my day? So it would be lining up podcasts for me to listen to while on a walk or doing my weekly shop, and just really incorporating it into your daily life in a way that doesn't make you feel like you're going to burn out. So something else that I would say as well is that as soon as you submit your application, act as though you're going to get through to the next stage, because when you've submitted your application, it could be a few days before you get the Watson Glaser invite. You don't want to be panicking. You want to have had all the time that you can to prepare. And I would say the same goes for the assessment day. So when you submit the video interview, act as though you already know that you're going to get through to the next stage, because then it just takes a lot of the pressure off in terms of preparation. I'd also say one of the final tips is that group exercises aren't the favourite thing of a lot of people. If you don't think that you're the person that sticks their hand up at the beginning and says, I want to be the leader, I want to take charge, that's fine, and that's actually great, because if everyone wanted to lead a team, then a team wouldn't work. So think about the ways that you can bring things to the table. It's a lot more important to make thoughtful contributions, make sure that everyone's points are heard, be a team player, and help to create a plan. So if, say, for example, you might be a bit more introverted, play that to your strengths, I would say. And then one final tip that I forgot to put on the slide is to be prepared for being unprepared for certain things. So it might be that someone can throw you a real curveball of a question, or something comes up that you aren't 100% prepared for. That's absolutely fine. Happens all the time in practice anyway. People expect it to happen, but just stay calm and know that everyone else is in the same situation. Take a deep breath and just use the time, say, for example, of having a drink of water, to think it through and see, if you can't give a full answer, what you might be able to say instead. But that's basically a run through of all of my key tips on the back of all the brilliant things that everyone else has said. So I will pass back to Anita for the next part.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Christy, for that. That was a really great overview of your life experience today, and your experience of the assessment day. So really great advice there. So before we kind of close and open for the Q&A, I know there's been lots of questions coming in, which is really great to see. I'm just going to quickly hand back to Kat to kind of close off the session, really, with a bit of an inside scoop, if you like, in terms of her advice off the back of what Shannon and Christy have said in terms of how to really sell yourself and make an impactful application as the person that screens thousands and thousands of applications and knows exactly what we are looking for at CMS. So I'm just going to hand back to Kat just to close off with her final thoughts, and then we'll open for Q&A. Over to you, Kat.
Thanks, Anita. So I'm just going to try and summarize some of the kind of hottest tips that if you follow most of these, you should have the really best chance of progressing, because the truth of the matter is that, as I think our special guests today have probably shown, really good candidates fail to get through the process. Almost everyone that's now a solicitor will have tales of rejection, and that doesn't mean that they weren't good candidates. They obviously had that potential, but there are often really small reasons why on any given cycle some people progress and some people don't. So just try to make sure that you don't fall foul of any of these really easy things that can just increase your chances. So we've talked a lot about being yourself, and hopefully it's really reassured you to hear our trainees talk about how, you know, CMS is not looking for one type of candidate. There are infinite types of people who can be successful as trainees here at CMS. I think, to add to that, being yourself is so much better than trying to be a version of what you think we're looking for. And that is something that we do see both in terms of the written answers you give and at assessment day and at video interview. We see candidates that are trying to be this perfect trainee, even people who, you know, are talking in a different way because they think they have to speak in a different way to be what we're looking for. That couldn't be further from the truth. So the more natural you can be, both in terms of your delivery of answers, but also in terms of, you know, showing us who you are, the better. We don't want 100 trainees that all look the same, talk the same, sound the same, say the same things. We're looking for, you know, 100 trainees who have got something different, a different puzzle piece to put together to have the most effective cohort possible. So be yourself, and also sell yourself. You know, we see people who are very confident in talking about their academic achievements. They're very proud to put if they've got lots of A stars or, you know, a 2-1 or even a first at university, but they're not always as able to talk about their achievements in a qualitative way. So some of the questions that we ask both in the application form and hopefully subsequently at video interview will effectively invite you to talk about what you can bring to the firm. And you have to be confident, and you have to focus on, you know, what it is that you can bring to us without, you know, this is not the time to kind of play down your achievements. So yes, we're not looking for people to come and say, I'm going to be the best trainee ever, and not back it up. But when you're actually answering a question with a really detailed example that, you know, showcases some of our key competencies for success, that's exactly what we're asking for. So have the confidence to, you know, to really say, actually, yes, I've got a great example for that, and be really clear about what your personal contribution was. Leading on from that, you know, tell us about all of your achievements. Academics are important. Of course, we want people who are able to complete the work that you need to do as a solicitor, but much more than that, we're interested in, you know, your drive and resilience, perhaps how you've overcome difficult situations. There are always opportunities to talk about those either directly or indirectly. Share when you have had to overcome difficult mitigating circumstances, if you feel confident and able to, and essentially, you know, make sure that we get to see what makes you you, and how that can then translate to future success with us as a firm. As both of our current trainees have mentioned, we do expect you to have done research on the firm, but that is for, it's for our benefit because we want to know that you understand us and you think you'd be a good addition, but it's also for your benefit. There's no point applying to firms that you don't feel a synergy with. So doing that research will have a dual benefit. It will impress us if you can articulate it well, but it will also reassure you that you're actually applying to a firm that is somewhere that you can build a successful career. And all of our questions are designed to give you the opportunity to pepper them with CMS research, to back up with things that you've learned about our firm, our people, our culture, our values. So please don't do it just for the sake of it, but if there's an appropriate way that you can bring in your CMS research to your answers in a natural way, please do so, because that's bound to elevate your answer above those candidates who don't do that. And we've talked about attention to detail, and it really, really is important. People in the same breath will say that they've got great attention to detail, but miss off apostrophes, miss out capital letters. I can't count the number of candidates that don't capitalize their own names, which I think really, I don't want to, go into too much analysis, but that feels like that's not a particularly confident way to approach your application. So, please do realize that we assess the whole form. I think that's what people don't realize. We don't just look for spelling and grammar in the written answers you give us, but we look throughout the whole form. So even if you're explaining your mitigating circumstances, please do that in full sentences and as if you're writing that for a professional audience to read. In terms of the word count, which we've already mentioned, please do take that seriously. It's going to be impossible for you to compete against someone who's fully utilizing the word count if you only give us 2 sentences, because it's just going to lack the detail that we need. So on the flip side, please don't write a dissertation instead of a 200-word answer, because again, you're not actually answering the question that we're asking. So all of this is just about, can you read and digest the instructions you're being given, and can you produce accurate information, accurate work for us to read that really sells you as a person, as an individual, and as someone that could be a successful addition to our team. Then I think we've talked about kind of engaging in the video interview format. It is hard because you are essentially just recording yourself, but I think throughout the whole process we think we come across as a firm that really wants to get to know you. So try to show us how you would communicate in this kind of situation. Do your best to make eye contact and try if you can to minimize the use of a script, etc., because it's going to be really hard to connect with us, even in a virtual interview, if you are reading verbatim from notes. It's quite impressive if you can come up with a script in 60 seconds, but actually that is when we see candidates fall down quite often, because they lose track or they go off on a tangent, they can't bring it back, and they're not showing us those non-verbal communication skills that we're really looking for. So I think that's almost everything from me. Just one final thing that I haven't got on this slide is about when you apply and how quickly you move through the process, because in the past we used to do not exactly a rolling basis, but we did say that we operated on a first come, first serve basis, which was essentially just that if we had enough amazing applications, we wouldn't necessarily be able to push everyone through the process. That's not the case this year, but that doesn't mean that it's not a good idea to get your application in with a little bit of time before the deadline, because things happen. If you plan to submit your application the night before it closes and something happens to you personally, we have a hard deadline and you will have had a couple of months to submit your applications. And the same goes for the Watson Glaser. You want to be doing the Watson Glaser and the video interview when you've got enough time to approach it with a positive mindset. You don't want to be leaving it 5 minutes to the cutoff and then panicking because you've got some kind of technical issue with your laptop. Again, we are human, and we know you're human, and we will try to accommodate where we can if you have issues like that. Ultimately, think about all of it as the kind of professional persona you would want to project. And ultimately, if you're delivering a piece of work in situ as a trainee, it's probably best not to leave it till 5 minutes before the absolute last deadline. So again, in all of this process, be yourself, but just also try to give the most professional impression, because if you go into it with that mindset, you really can't go wrong. So I hope that that's been quite useful, a bit of a whistle-stop tour, and I think we're going to move on now to some more specific questions that you might have for all of the team.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Kat. That was really, really insightful. I really appreciate, and thank you again to Shannon and Christy for your insights there. So yes, you're right, Kat. That brings us to the end of the kind of formal content. I hope that was really useful for you. We've left hopefully plenty of time to get through some of your questions. I know Ella and Emma have been working really hard in the background answering some of your questions on the chat, but we've got some that we're going to put to the panel of all of us now to answer some questions. So the first question, I suppose, a bit of an open question, and I will come to you, Kat, if that is all right. So what really makes a candidate stand out? So if you see an application that scores 100%, and you just go, wow, what is it about that applicant that makes it wow?
I think the most impressive applications manage to combine something that feels very genuine and personal in terms of their motivation for applying to CMS, with clearly some deep research into the firm, which backs that up. So it's not about just name dropping a partner that you've read about, but what it might be is, for example, if you've got a particular interest in some niche IP law, and you happen to have done some research and seen a research paper that partner has put onto the CMS website. That's a great way, by the way, of getting to know what law is doing, is having a look at the website and seeing what publications are being put out by the firm. But if you manage to combine something that's really personal to you with a reason why CMS is excelling in that arena, that is the kind of combination that really makes a candidate stand out. And I think that the reason it's impressive is because it marries up commercial awareness and passion and research into CMS, and does so in a way that feels organic. So that would be kind of something that would really stand out to me. And I know it sounds really boring, but honestly, when applications are formatted really well, when everything is accurate, that honestly does stand out. It won't get you through if you haven't got the content, but it's a combination really of just reading an application and thinking, this person has really tailored, has really put a lot of effort in, and has really made it personal to them. And this could definitely not be something I'm going to see from another applicant. And it certainly couldn't be something that I could substitute another law firm's name into, because it's so personal to CMS.
Great, thanks for that, Kat. So we've got another question which I'll pose to Christy and Shannon, our trainees on the call, and this is around really understanding, I guess, the work of a trainee solicitor and what the skills and attributes you need, I suppose, in order to frame applications in the right way. So is there a balance between teamwork and independent working? How much is it part of a team? How much do you have to kind of work on your own and really take the lead? I suppose, should we come to Shannon? What's your view on that in terms of the balance between those two skills that you require?
So I'd say that you definitely have to strike a balance between the two. And I'd say it boils down to wanting to do things efficiently for the client, but also wanting to get the best result for the client. So I think it's choosing which skill is appropriate is situational. So if you can drive a matter forward by taking your own initiative, and it's something that you've already learned and understand and know how to do that, then your initiative and your independence is really important there. But if it's a situation where collaboration would achieve the best result, or delegating tasks would achieve the best result, then teamwork would be more appropriate there. So I think that both qualities of teamwork and independence are very important, and it's just down to your judgment in that situation of what's going to get the best result for the client, and what's going to drive the matter forward in the best way. And I think as well, it's a skill having to judge when it is appropriate. So I'd say as a trainee, obviously we're learning. So if it's the first time doing something, then you might need to lean on a colleague for some help, and have some teamwork in that aspect. But it could be something that you can actually do on your own the second time round and use your initiative to action that yourself. So yeah, I think both qualities are really important, and it's all situational. What would you say, Christy?
I'd probably say exactly the same as that you can't really have one without the other, especially when you're working as part of a team and you're learning all the time. So, for example, even if you are doing a piece of work on your own, it's still really important to recognise how that impacts the rest of the team. So, say, for example, if you're given a deadline, do you look to meet the deadline, or could you look to get it to the fee earner sooner, because then they can review it and give you feedback in case you need to make any changes, so that if the work that you're doing feeds into an overall project, there aren't any delays, but you can still make sure that there's a high quality of work. So I think as well that, say, for example, if things are being done generally as a team project, you also need to look at whether there's any parts of that you can take individual responsibility for. So I think that they're both incredibly important, which probably isn't the simple answer that it can be for a lot of questions, but I think they're both equally as important as each other, and that you really have to rely on both. And like Shannon said, you have to evaluate the situation to see which one's the most appropriate.
Fabulous. Thanks both. So really have a think about those skills and attributes, and where in your personal and life experience can you demonstrate that those attributes in your applications. I suppose this leads nicely on to the kind of next question. We've had some questions around work experience, and when we talk about positions of responsibility, and what sort of examples can we use? Maybe if there's limited legal experience that a candidate has, what are some examples of other experiences that we can use and those transferable skills? I suppose I can kind of start this off and maybe come to Shannon or Christy of maybe if you had any examples that you used in your applications. But for us, it's all your work experience. I wouldn't get bogged down in work experience or legal experience. Think about what you do have, and any kind of experience where you've had to learn, develop, or do something or demonstrate certain skills is relevant and you should be using. Don't think that, oh, I've done something at school. It may be that you are part of a sports club at school. You can demonstrate teamwork, you can demonstrate leadership, you can demonstrate that you can, be resilient. All these things can be demonstrated in so many different ways. So I wouldn't think of it in a narrow way when it says work experience. We're not just meaning, paid work experience. It can be volunteering. It can be if you have caring responsibilities. Think about the transferable skills, and most things that you have experienced and done in your life, there are transferable skills in terms of what makes a good solicitor. So focus on the skills and attributes that make a good trainee, which you've had some good tips here today. Then look at your life and see where you've demonstrated those, and then sell those. I suppose Shannon or Christy, should we come to Christy? Did you have any non-legal or bit different work experience that you used to demonstrate those skills in your application?
So I did. So before I started at CMS, I was a legal advisor, but before that, I worked at pizza restaurants. So I worked at Pizza Hut while I was at university. So I talked about how that helped me with time management skills, and the fact that I would have to arrange everything to do with university around work, as well as managing my own finances. And then after I finished university, I then moved to like an independent pizzeria, and I talked about how I learned about the way that different businesses operate and run, and how it was different from kind of a multinational conglomerate compared to a restaurant that literally had one restaurant at the time. And I talked about how in that type of situation, you are given a lot more freedom in terms of what you can and can't do. So I talk about how I would really like to get involved with incentives, things to do with holidays like Halloween, and I'd get people really excited for coming up with new menu ideas and things like that, and arranging social activities. So a lot of the time, even if it's nothing to do with any legal elements, there's still going to be things in terms of your life as a trainee that have nothing to do with the law. So it could be if you're at university, are you involved in any D&I committees, any organisations, any clubs, anything that you think that you could bring to the table, essentially, because while everyone here is working in law, they're also looking at how can we make the workplace a bit better, how can we make it so that people really enjoy what they do. But I don't know if, Shannon, you have anything to add to that.
I'd just second that really and just say, transferable skills are important. So I spoke about how I worked in a team in a dessert parlour. I also worked part-time at Tesco as a stock controller, and I also use that as teamwork and independence. So I brought in both skills from that job. And I also spoke about how it actually increased my interest in commercial awareness, because as a stock controller, you're looking at, the figures behind the business, how much stock there is, how that's going to affect profits. So though you wouldn't think, being a part-time stock controller at Tesco would branch out into a wider commercial interest, you can use that as well as using your transferable skills to showcase your interest in how you've got here and how you can be a benefit to the firm.
Brilliant. Thank you both. So just conscious of time, we've got loads of questions. I just wanted to quickly cover off. We had some questions around kind of the timescales of when we're expecting to hear and how that's going to work. So obviously applications are open now. So we have started that kind of initial process. So you will hear about what's in Glazer's stage kind of from now. And then the video interview stage will kind of commence towards the end of this month, beginning of December, and start to look to invite people through to those assessment days before Christmas and beyond. Kat's smiling, which means I think I've got that about right. But yes, so we will start screening the through the process, but every applicant will have a fair opportunity to get invited to that assessment day. So yeah, you will expect to hear relatively soon within you applying. You won't have to wait until December to get any correspondence from us at all. So I just wanted to finish off with maybe one final quick question to Kat, if that's all right. And we've just got a question around, we talk about this kind of holistic approach to applications. So I suppose, what do we actually mean by that? And is there a clean slate at each stage of the process? And how does that first piece work? When we talk about holistic, what do we mean?
So, I think for me, a holistic approach means that we aren't getting rid of candidates because of kind of their academics or because they haven't had the chance to do any legal work experience. We're looking for them to be able to demonstrate the competencies we're looking for, but we are open-minded as to how they can demonstrate those. So, for example, I'm so glad that both Christy and Shannon have talked about, service or retail jobs, because things like that are some of the best foundations for developing all of the kind of competencies that a good law firm should value. But I think candidates worry that if they don't have legal work experience, if they don't have straight A's at A level, they're going to get immediately discounted. And I think so for me, the kind of the essence of the holistic approach is to look at the bigger picture, essentially. In terms of whether that means a clean slate at every stage, that's not exactly the case. And I think that's what is part of what makes it a holistic approach. Essentially, what will happen is you have to reach a certain point to progress, a certain benchmark to progress at every stage. There may be a little bit of leeway with that benchmark, and we would take into account things like contextual answers and things like that. But when it comes to deciding who reaches the assessment day, we will look at how you've performed throughout the rest of the process. So that means that, for example, don't panic at the video interview if you don't think every answer is perfect, because we may look at your video interview score, but we may also look back at your application form and realize your answers were particularly strong. So what we try and do is essentially not allow candidates to fall out of the process for any one specific kind of transgression, and rather looking at it from a big picture perspective. Having said that, it is an incredibly competitive process, so that doesn't always mean we can't take everyone through every stage of the process, but we just try and be as fair, as objective as we can, and really screen for potential, as well as, you know, as experience as well.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. So conscious of time, we'll wrap it up there. Thank you so much for you answering those questions. We really, really appreciate it. That brings us to the end of the session. I hope you found that helpful. Before you go, I just want to ask you that poll question again that we asked you at the beginning of this session, asking you how confident you now feel in applying to one of our programs. Hopefully more confident than at the beginning of this session. So please do take some time to fill that in. And while you do so, I just wanted to take the time to close the session. A massive thank you to our guest speakers. You've been really, really insightful, and it's been fantastic to download your thoughts this afternoon. Please do keep engaged with us. We have more events throughout the rest of this month and beyond, some more virtual event series. This one will be recorded and available on our website, as will all of the virtual event series for this year. Please do also join us in person at any of our CMS live or other events. We also are attending events in partnership with some of our external providers. So please do have a look on our website, on our events page. Come and meet us, come and find us, download all the information before submitting that application. If you have any queries on eligibility, I know we've got lots of different programs opening at different times, and we went through that quite quickly. So please do refer to our website for all the details on eligibility to check if you are eligible. If you're not sure, just drop us an email using the Emerging Talent email, which is on our website also, just to ask if you are eligible, and we will double check that for you. But all the details will be on our website. And that's there's nothing more to say. We're just going to wait for those poll results to come through. Just finally, please do also check us out on social media, on TikTok, on Instagram, and LinkedIn. We're going to be posting lots of updates on there, and that is a really good way to keep up to date with everything that's going on at CMS. So I'll just leave you with the results of the poll. So we can see now 17% of people are extremely confident. So that's shot up from 2%, and 60% are quite confident, and nobody is not confident at all. So hallelujah, round of applause. I think that is a success this afternoon. So I wish you the best of luck for your applications. I hope you can take all of this and just be your best self in your applications. And I'll let you get on with the rest of your afternoon, and have a lovely, lovely day.